Excellent. Good morning. Good morning. We are
Good
here.
morning.
Good
Morning.
morning. Hooray. Yay for everyone on Saturday morning. It is steamy out there, so it's a good day to be inside and staying cool and crafting. And today we are going to be making this super cute little kite card, and it opens up
That's
like so.
awesome.
So if I could just please ask that everyone put themselves on mute. At any point, if you have questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, ask your questions, especially if I start doing this and I'm crafting over here and you can't see me. Please tell me to move up. I will try to keep my my awareness up here. And I just realized I forgot one thing, so when we get to that point, I may have to run off screen and grab something. But that's the advantage to crafting at home, is that you can grab stuff as you need it. So with our little kite card here, it's actually quite a simple little mechanism. And the Pinterest page that I found this on, actually there isn't, they showed that there's enough space to put a little gift card in here as well. So if you wanted to use this as a gift card holder, you could do that as well. But today we're just going to work
I think I'm going to take the bunsies out a little earlier.
the main mechanism here. So let me do this. And all right, so moving on. So what I started with, and if you have a scrap piece of paper handy, or if you just want to write this down on your mess mat, I make myself a little template when I am doing something that might be a little bit more complicated, or down the road I don't want to have to go looking for that Pinterest page again. I have created this little template that I can just keep in my little template binder. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cutting a piece of cardstock that is 4 inches by 11 inches. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to use green paper today. So we want it to be 4 inches. Move my little sample up there, by 11. There we go. So you just have that little bit left over. That can all be scrap. And really all this comes down to is a little bit of cutting and a little bit of scoring. So to start with, we want to score it in half at 5.5 inches. Now, if you can read my scribble, but we're going to score in half at 5.5 inches. So just like making a top fold card, I'm going to put it here. And remember, when you're scoring, it's better to press gently and go over it a few times than to have your scoring tool go right through your paper. That's not good. So here we have our top folding 4 by 11 inch card. If you wanted to go a little bit bigger to a standard 4 1/4 by 5.5, just some of our little measurements might be off when we go to decorate. And once you've got this format down, it really is quite easy to figure out for other sizes as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my card again and turn it horizontal. I'm going to use my grids, or if you have a ruler, because we're going to make some little marks with a pencil so that we can cut and score in the right spots. So what we want to do is on the long side, excuse me, both bottom and top. I need a sip of my pineapple water here. We are going to mark 3 3/4 inch in from either end. So I'm going to line it up here. Actually, I'll use my grids. So 1, 2, 3 3/4. I'm going to put a little tick mark at the bottom. 1, 2, 3 3/4, a little tick mark at the top. So I've just come in from the right side 3 3/4 inch. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, come in 3 3/4 inch and make a little tick mark. So 1, 2, 3 3/4. 1, 2, 3, and 3/4. Now we are going to, oh, one more thing, sorry. We also need to make, I'm trying to grab my template here. On the short ends, we need to make a little tick mark at the 2-inch mark, which is ultimately the 1/2 inch mark. So if you've got a wider card, for example, you just want this tick mark to be halfway along. So on both ends, I'm gonna make a little tick mark there and a little tick mark there. So what we're going to do is, using our scoring tool, we are going to connect the tick marks on our long sides with score lines and make a giant X. So we're going to go from the top to the bottom with our scoring tools. So just line up your tick marks. I'm going to bring this down a little bit closer. Sorry for the earthquake here, but then maybe you can see. Let's see if that works a little bit better, just for close-ups. So line up my top tick mark in my channel, my bottom tick mark in the channel, and score lightly. And then I'm going to flip it the other way so that I'm connecting the other tick marks. So I've got a tick mark here and a tick mark here, like so. And if you are bang on, your X should cross right at that center fold. If you're a little bit off, that's totally okay, but the ideal spot is for that to cross right in the middle. The next thing we're going to do, just to get our kite shape, is we're now going to trim, not score, we're going to use our trimmer from that middle tick mark to your score mark, and we're going to cut those corners off of our paper. Like so. No, this way. So you're just lining things up with the channel on your, or the wire if you have one of those paper trimmers, or the edge if you're using a guillotine, and that's making our kite shape start to take form. And the last one. All right, so now we have this funky looking triangle-ish shape. If you just fold along that horizontal line, it's going to fold like this, but that's still not making our kite look like a kite. So what you want to do is open it up, fold it back the other way, and then as you start to close it, you want to put your finger and your thumb on that horizontal line and bring, see how I'm bringing those folds in, and it'll pop right down along those score lines. Give it a little crease, and voila. Okay, class is over. No, just kidding. So really, that is your main mechanism for your kite card. The next, what brings it to life though is the decorating. So I will walk you through all those measurements so that we can cut some cardstock, cut some pattern paper, and finish off that kite card. And then the thing I forgot to grab is some twine and some ribbon so that you can make a tail for your kite as well. So once again, I like to do this little template, and I have written my mats actually right on my template, so I never have to do the math again. Math is not my strong suit, so having it all written out makes it so much easier. So the first mat we're going to cut on my pink card, I have it cut out of white. So this is the largest of the triangles that we're going to cut. We are going to cut 2 pieces that are 1.5 by 1 3/4, and we're going to cut 2 pieces that are 3.5 by 1 3/4. Feel free to use whatever color works with the pattern paper and the cardstocks that you've chosen. Again, I'm going to do white, so it actually, I think, works out well if I remember from doing my prototype that I'm going to cut a strip that's 1 3/4 of an inch wide.
Sheri, can you slow down just a wee bit with those measurements?
No problem at all. So I'm cutting a strip that's 1 3/4 wide. That's the start. And then once again, I'm going to cut 2 pieces that are 1.5, 2 pieces that are 3.5. And that's simply because we are using rectangles as opposed to squares. So in order to get the 2 different angles, we need to cut it twice so that we can cut the diagonals in different directions. If these were squares, it would be easy. We would only have to cut 1. But because they're rectangles, we do have to cut 2. So I've got my 1 3/4 inch wide piece here. I'm going to turn it horizontal. I'm going to cut 1 piece at 1.5, 2 pieces at 1.5, then 1 piece at 3.5, and another piece at 3.5. And you'll actually have a little bit left over that can go in your scrap pile. While we're working with these, let's cut those diagonals as well so that we've got that step all done. So on one rectangle, and I'm using one of the long ones to show you, but we're going to do the same thing with the small ones. I'm going to turn it just slightly clockwise. So I'm cutting from the bottom right to the top left. So bottom right to top left. And I have 2 triangles. On the second long one, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to turn it just slightly to counterclockwise to the left. And I'm going to cut from the bottom left to the top right. And that gives me 2 triangles. And where those are going to go, so you need 1 each of those, because this one is going to go here, and this one is going to go here. But if you try taking 2 of the same, so this one came from the same piece, I would have 1 here, but then I would have to flip that one over, which means I will have 1 textured and 1 smooth. If you've got the same texture, you could flip it over and do it that way, but because I want them to look the same, I've gone that way. So we're going to do the same thing with our smaller ones. Now these ones are still slightly rectangular, so you want to have them so that it's a vertical rectangle. So the long edges, yep, the long edges are on the sides. So again, I'm going to take my rectangle slightly to the right, line it up and cut that diagonal. Put those aside. The second piece, slightly to the left, slightly counterclockwise. So now we have 4 small triangles. Grab 1 from each pile. And those are going to go here. And here. So because they're starting to get finicky, let's go ahead and glue those down so that we don't lose them. I'm just going to open up my card, get my adhesive. here. So one corner goes down, and you will have a slight border of that colored paper coming through. The goal is to try and keep that top edge going straight. And then you line up your second one right beside it. Right down to the point. And then your little ones go on top. The little ones I found a little bit tricky, so try it first. You want the longer edge of that rectangle lining up with the larger rectangle. That's the best way to have them fit. If you try to put them this way, they don't line up quite the same way. So if you're having trouble with the alignment, it just means you have to turn it 90 degrees to get it to fit. Kind of like a puzzle. So there, our kite shape is starting to really jump out at us. And you can do as many layers now as you wish. On this pink one, I did a white layer, then a green layer, then the pattern layer. On this one here, I'm just gonna jump right to the pattern layer. But ultimately, all I did with each set of measurements is I subtracted 1/4 of an inch, just to make it that little bit smaller. So 1.5 by 1 3/4 goes down to 1 1/4 by 1 1/2. 3.5 by 1 3/4 goes down to 3 1/4 by 1 1/2. So we'll go through that again. Like I said, I'm gonna grab my pattern paper for this next one, but you could do as many different layers as you wish, just decreasing by 1/4 of an inch on each of your measurements. All right, so I'm gonna jump to my pattern paper, and of course, because it's now my theme of the day, I'm using the vitamin C paper by Fancy Pants. I'm gonna use pineapples because I need a pineapple kite in my life. There's lots of great papers. Very summery. Oh, there's the pineapples there. Now I will be curious. This one was a nice random pattern. We'll have to see how it works with a directional pattern, if that's going to affect how we do our cuts. But again, I'm going to start by cutting a whole strip that is 1.5 inches wide. 1.5. And then according to my template, I need 2 that are 3 1/4 and 2 that are 1 1/4. So let's do the 3 1/4 first, because I know they're gonna be okay. And it looks like I have run out of space, so I'm gonna have to cut another piece. So those are gonna go there. I won't have enough to cut both of them out of here. So I'm gonna cut a second strip that is 1.5 inches wide. Actually, I think with the directional, I'm gonna go this way because I want the 1.5 to be this measurement here. No, I was right the first time. Sorry, guys. I want the 1.5 to be that measurement. And then 1 1/4 and 1 1/4. Hope you're still with me. 1 1/4, 1 1/4. So those will go on there. So starting with our diagonals, I've gone back to my big piece, rotate slightly to the right to cut my diagonal. Now, sometimes with pattern paper, doing this technique, you have to be careful because the corners might gather on the blade. So I'll start in the middle. Move it up. I'm starting with my blade in the middle and then going down. Well, make sure it doesn't move on you. Going down and then going up. There's one. Second rectangle, slightly to the left. Line up my corners. Lift and start my blade in the middle, down, and then up. So I now have pineapple number 1, pineapple number 2, and the same with my little guy. So actually this time I'm going to do the long edges on the bottom. Turn it slightly to the right. There's one. Long edge on the bottom, slightly to the left. And there's my second triangle. And I can build up on my kite. So now I'm just going to glue it down. And again, you're going to see a small white border inside your triangle or outside of your pattern triangle, then followed by the border of the main base paper. There we go. And you don't always have to use the same paper. You could have used a different paper for your small. And have it have brighter colors. There you go. Now I'm just going to go grab my twine and some ribbon. Bear with me a sec. In all my moving around, I misplaced my scissors, so I had to grab another pair of scissors too. So I just got some basic twine and basic ribbon here. I'm going to cut a little piece of the twine. If I can find the end. There's an end. I see an end. Oh, here are my scissors right here. Silly me. And I can just I'm going to put my twine. I'm just going to use a little bit of tape runner right now. Actually, a glue dot might have been better. Let's do a little dab of liquid glue to hold my tail. And it might be okay. And then I can just take little bits of my ribbon and tie little bows to make it look like a kite tail. Bows are not my forte, especially as you're all watching me. There we go. So we'll just snip and snip. And so on and so forth down my kite string. If you have little pre-made bows, that would work well as well. Or maybe you've got a die that can cut out little paper bows. Anything will work. It just gives that little finishing touch to it. And there you go. You now have a pretty little kite card. You could put a sentiment in the middle. Where did my pads go? I think I had some sentiments in here. You could put something like summer, or I would probably get out my circle punch and punch a little circle of something to put in the middle here. There you go. Super simple, but super cute, and it will fit in your standard size envelope to mail to someone special. Like I said, if you wanted to put a gift card in there, or just put, again, maybe a large white circle inside to write your sentiment in. There you have it. So that is our Saturday morning Zoom. I am right on schedule. And away we go. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I know many of you are joining us for our virtual crop as well, so I will continue to see you throughout the day. And I wish you an awesome Saturday. I'm going to stop the recording, and then if you have any questions, feel free to shout them out.
Sheri,